So now, Mandal sir, it is visible?
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
Okay. So as we can see, there is a structure, molecular structure of oxygen and ozone is visible. Oxygen is basically the diatomic molecule, as well as the ozone is a triatomic molecule made up of oxygen. So the properties are listed in the box, students can read. Because we are going to discuss on ozone, so we will stick to the ozone. As we can see, it is a triatomic molecule of oxygen. It is basically derived from oxygen. The ozone molecule is having a dual property. It has protective as well as harmful effect on us as well as on Earth. When the ozone is present on tropospheric region, in tropospheric region, it has harmful effect because it acts as a pollutant. But when it is present in stratospheric region, it has useful role because it filters or cut off the UV radiation that has harmful effect on us. How to distinguish these oxygen and ozone? We can distinguish at the molecular level into the lab. That is a different thing. But we can also distinguish oxygen is odorless, while ozone is a pungent gas. It is blue in color and it is pungent in color. Whenever it is present, it will have your nose can detect it. And earlier we used to have a photocopy machine in our nearby. Whenever we used to go there, the generation of ozone takes place in photocopier machine. But now new generation photocopy machine do not generate these things. Now we can see the ozone is, when present in stratospheric region, it makes a layer, and that layer is called as ozone layer. Usually this ozone layer is 3 mm in thickness. It is 3 mm in thickness, or it is around 300 Dobson unit. So what we have to understand, whenever there is a layer present in a stratosphere which has thickness of 3 mm or 300 Dobson unit, the layer is perfect, meaning thereby there is no depletion, there is no hole. That is, the benchmark has been established. And this 300 Dobson unit is basically a level. It was recorded around 1980, and since then the thickness is getting lesser and lesser, and that is why we are calling it ozone hole or depletion. The term ozone hole is not appropriate because hole means you have a complete transmission of UV light, but that is not occurring. The correct term usually I have read is depletion. So when the thickness goes down, the molecules present gets thinner and thinner, so that more and more UV can go down to the earth, and that is why we call it ozone depletion. So the photograph is showing the stratosphere above the troposphere. We are usually in the troposphere, and above the troposphere we have a layer, stratosphere, and this layer is having different heights. If you go to the polar region, the stratospheric layer is around 10 kilometer, 10 to 12 or 15 kilometer, depending on the temperature. Because when there is a low temperature at pole, the layer goes down. Because of the fall of temperature, the molecular condensation takes place of the gases, so the layer goes down. But when we go to the equatorial region where throughout the year the temperature remains high. So the height of that stratospheric region goes up, and it may go up to the 50 kilometer. So you have a band of 10 to 50 kilometer, which is, encircled by the stratosphere. So here I have made a thick layer, but that is not a correct picture. It has been drawn in some books, so that's why I made it. So to explain that. So this is basically variation, and in this region, the layer is just 3 mm or 300 Dobson unit. That we have to understand. This 3 mm is making our life beautiful. As you can see in the picture, it's a animation that is showing the different layers of your atmosphere where different activities occur. So this, fall of meteorite remains limited on the above the stratospheric region, and these, rockets and all, they go beyond that. Now, that was a issue of what is ozone and what is ozone layer. Now, why and what it does? Ozone layer filters the UV radiation, and UV radiation is basically part of electromagnetic radiation coming from sun, and that is called as insolation, incoming solar radiation. So UV makes a part of that radiation, and UV is, before the visible light in the entire spectrum. So we can understand by the simple way that UV has more energy and lesser wavelength. So this particular reason of the radiation has significance in our life. Our life, is depending on this UV radiation. If we receive more UV radiation, life will become difficult on Earth. So when this electromagnetic radiation coming from sun, having this particular slot of UV radiation, can be divided into 3 segments, because we know that energy, is coming from sun, and these are existing in especially in the light wave form or in the particular form. So prior to the light, the amount of energy is coming in the form of wave. It is not in the particulate form, and that is why I think, in my opinion, we should use the term UV radiation rather than using light, because light portion is visible to us. UV radiation we cannot see until unless we take the help of certain, aid, because it harms our eyes. So UV radiation can be classified into 3 subcategories: UVA, UVB, and UVC. Now we can see UVA is the portion of UV light that has longer wavelength and closer to the light. So that is why it has least harmful effect on us as well as on the other living organism, and this portion reaches to the earth. There is no much issue with this portion of UVA. UVB and UVC is the portion that is made cut off by the ozone layer. So we have to remember the wavelength of UVB. It falls between the 315 to 280 nanometer, and below 280 nanometer is called as UVC. UVB and UVC is absorbed by the ozone layer. Now, what is the role of UVB and UVC after absorption? That we can see in the next slide. Now, as we discussed ozone hole and ozone depletion, the correct terminology I suggest is ozone depletion. So we can say that ozone layer, which is present in stratospheric region, is dynamic in nature. Now, what is the meaning of dynamic? As we saw in the first slide, ozone is made up of oxygen. It is a triatomic molecule of oxygen. So single atom cannot exist freely because it's a free radical. It will collide with another molecule and make the different oxides. So it remains in the molecular form. So stable molecular form is oxygen, and when it gets activated, it forms the ozone by addition of extra oxygen. So what happens in the ozone layer? The oxygen molecule, which is formed in the troposphere or on the earth by photochemical reactions, because the most of the oxygen is formed by the photochemical generation, photosynthesis. So it is liberated and it is moving to the upper layer. So when it moves to the upper layer, it reaches to certain height where the UVC and UVB collides. And after collision of the UVB and UVC, because UVC is more energetic, so what it does, it causes breakdown of oxygen molecule. So when you break down, it makes oxygen free radical. So you have O and O. So what happens? Molecular oxygen is broken and free radical oxygen is formed, and it combines with molecular oxygen and it makes the triatomic molecule of, as you can see here, formation and destruction of ozone in stratosphere. So here you can see the oxygen molecule is broken and combined with another oxygen molecule makes the triatomic molecule that is called as ozone. And ozone is again struck by the UV light, and that makes the again oxygen and ozone. So you can see in the animation also, the pulses of UV light is coming and it is making the ozone and breaking the oxygen. So what happens? The role of UVC is to break the oxygen, break the ozone, and when this breakdown and formation of ozone takes place, this is the role of UVC portion of ultraviolet light. So it helps in the formation and degradation or destruction of ozone and oxygen. So this way what happens? The ozone layer remains always in the continuity, formation and destruction, and that makes it dynamic in nature. So it is not in a static nature, it's a dynamic nature. Now this layer, which is 300 Dobson unit thicker or 3 mm thicker, is basically the ozone layer. And when depletion occurs, the level forms below the 300. And actually we call it when it reaches 220 Dobson unit or below, then we start calling the depletion is taking place. So you have to remember the Dobson unit, and 1 Dobson unit is basically the number of molecule of ozone that would be required to create a layer of pure ozone that is 0.01 millimeter thick at a temperature of 0 degree and 1 atmospheric pressure. So आपको ये 1 Dobson क्या होता है वो यहाँ से पता चल जाएगा. So after that you can see a picture is kept. This picture is simply saying that over the period of time, the thickness of ozone layer is declining. Without applying the brain, you can simply see the violet color line is gradually getting declined. So it shows that there is thinning of ozone layer. Thinning of ozone layer means it is going down from the thickness of 3 mm. So now it is dynamic, but it is depleting. And that is why the concern arose to protect the ozone layer. Now, what are the causes of ozone depletion? Everybody knows there are two causes. One is man-made substance and other is man-made activities, human activities. Substance as well as activities, both are responsible for ozone depletion. So what are the ozone depleting substances? They are called as ODS. They are basically nothing but CFC, chlorofluorocarbon. There are various type of chlorofluorocarbon, so we are not going to list the name, but it's a group that has potential to cause the ozone layer thinness. Now, the activity of human being is basically the rocket launches. When we launch rocket for our commercial activity, because like we are listening this lecture through internet communication. This internet communication has satellite relationship. So for commercial purpose, we launch satellite, and satellites are launched with the help of rocket. So when rocket moves from tropospheric region to stratospheric region and further to their target, the fuel is burned, and in that fuel, when it is burned, it releases chlorine, and chlorine is one of the enemy of your ozone layer, and that is why this activity is harmful for ozone layer. Now, what are the feature of the ODS? That is also a very unique thing. As I said, the ozone has dual role, like it is protective and harmful. Similarly, ODS is also having useful role as well as harmful role. These ozone depleting substances are made for several commercial purpose, as they are used in cooling, refrigeration and solvent. So many places they are used. When they are formed in lab, they had a very unique property, and nobody knew that they will cause a great trouble. So at that time, they found that these ODS are very stable. They are not reacting. That is why the scientist who discovered it got very happy that it has no effect on human being. They were colorless, so not identifiable, odorless, no problem with any organism, non-toxic, non-inflammable, and even non-carcinogenic. So these were the good properties of your ODS. So by the virtue of these properties, these chemicals are used in huge amount, and when they are used, they are also released in the atmosphere, because at that time we were not knowing they have a great impact. So during 1980, what happened? There was a scientist group, Molina. They sampled across the globe, and they found that these molecules are present everywhere. So if they are present in troposphere everywhere, so they thought, why not to check that they are present in above the troposphere? So they started researching that whether they are present on the above level, that is stratosphere and further. They found that these molecules are present there also. So they started thinking, what are they doing there? And that led to the discovery that these ODS molecules are basically cause of concern and causing the thinning of ozone layer. So they are basically normal at the troposphere, but they become unstable, reactive, harmful at the stratosphere. And why? Because the same UVC slot which is causing breakdown of ozone and oxygen and making the ozone layer dynamic, these molecules are also broken by that portion of light, and when they are broken, they react with oxygen molecules and they cause the formation of various oxides of chloride, halide, fluoride, and those oxygens are not available for making the ozone, and that is why deficit occurs, and that deficit leads to the formation of ozone layer thinness. Now this I have discussed how the formation and destruction takes place. Now this is the general mechanism how ozone depletion occurs in stratosphere. So as we can see, we are living on Earth and majority of population is living in northern hemisphere and very small population live in the southern hemisphere, especially in the South America, Australia, New Zealand. These are the part where human beings live. But New Zealand and Australia is very least populated. South America is populated but poor country. So this also led to some different aspect we will discuss later. So what happens in general, the emission of ODS takes place from our Earth initially in the troposphere. So as we can see here, the N2O, CS3Br, CFC and many other molecules are liberated in troposphere. They travel here and there with the help of wind, prevailing winds. Winds are local, winds are permanent, high wind, low wind. There are various type of wind we'll discuss. And what happens, these liberated molecules gradually moves up. As we know that the things, as a law of thermodynamics, things move from higher concentration to lower concentration as a natural law. So as we know that troposphere is concentrated, stratosphere is less concentrated, so these molecules will move up as a general principle of thermodynamics, as well as with the help of different type of winds moving on Earth. So what happens when they move to the troposphere region, these molecules gets unstable and reactive, because when UVC falls on these molecules, they cause breakdown of these CFC and associated molecules. So what you can see, these molecules which are present in the stratosphere, they are broken by UVC and they make the free radical of chlorine, fluorine, bromine, all these you can imagine. And I have taken a simple one example of chlorine. So you can see here, chlorine react with oxygen or ozone and makes the chlorine oxide, and oxygen is formed. So in the second reaction, you can see chlorine oxide reacts with free radical oxygen and makes the again chlorine and oxygen, and this chlorine again react with ozone and makes the chlorine oxide. So what happens, there is a chain reaction of halide molecule with ozone molecule, because ozone is a reactive molecule instead of oxygen. Oxygen is also reactive, but ozone is much more reactive than oxygen, and that is why what happens, ozone is gradually consumed for making different kind of oxides. So as much as ozone depleting substances you are pumping into the stratosphere, they are causing the diversion of your oxygen molecule from ozone into the chlorine oxides, and that is why thinning takes place. So what happens, ultimately there is a ozone destruction and we find oxygen as a product. Oxygen is no more helpful for filtering the UVB and UVC. So in this picture I have shown you that it's a general mechanism of ozone depletion. Now here you can see on globe, I am showing two type of arrow. One is going to northern pole, that is Arctic region, and another one is showing the southern pole, that is going towards Antarctic region. Now when the research took place, they found that there is a great depletion towards the Antarctica. People do not talk much about Arctic region, that is North Pole. So more and more hue and cry took place why there is ozone hole, ozone depletion in the Antarctica. So we will discuss that in the next slide. So across the globe, we can see ozone depletion at 3 regions of the Earth. And they deplete the oxygen in different ways, a mechanism. So southern pole is Antarctica, northern pole is Arctic, and the third one is your equator. Equator is middle one. Southern pole, here we can say the diversion mechanism works for the ozone depletion, and in the northern pole, it's a deficit mechanism works for ozone depletion, but the mechanism is same as we discussed in the general mechanism of ozone depletion. We will discuss what is the difference between diversion and deficit. So before entering into that, we can see some geographical aspect of ozone depletion. So as you can see here, there is a model proposed to understand atmospheric circulation across the globe. So if you see, there is a 3 region: Arctic, Antarctic, and equator. Equator is 0 degree. Antarctic and Arctic are 90 degree north and 90 degree south. So sun keeps oscillating between the Tropic of Cancer and Tropic of Capricorn. So when it moves towards Tropic of Cancer and it comes very close to us around June, the northern pole becomes lighted region and it remains lighted for 6 months. And when sun moves from Tropic of Cancer to Tropic of Capricorn, the lighting occurs in the Antarctic region and that remains lighted for 6 months. So you can see the middle region remain lighted and warm throughout the year, but poles go for 6 months, when 6 months dark, 6 months light. Due to these movement of sun, what happens? The differential heating process occurs. These differential heating process, along with the earth rotation, and when there is a rotation of earth, there is a force, centrifugal force and centripetal force. These forces leads to development of a unique kind of force that is called as Coriolis force. Coriolis force causes the rotation of these gases in the different part of earth in a counterclockwise manner. And when these differential heating occurs, the different type of winds start moving and circulation of gases takes place in the atmosphere. So these gases circulate, atmospheric gases circulate in 3 type of cells. One is called as Hadley cell, other is called as Ferrel cell, and third is called as polar cell. Same is replicated in the southern portion also. So these 3 cells are responsible for intermixing the gases of atmosphere throughout the globe. Apart from these, circulation, we have some more type of winds, and these are called as westerlies. Westerlies moves from east to west. They are little bit above the earth. If you take the entire earth and atmosphere above the earth, there are different cellular levels in which the winds move. So at the lower level, middle level, and the above level. So these are the three levels. One is tricellular region of atmospheric circulation, and those circulations are equator to pole. But these winds, which are called as polar jet winds, subtropical winds, and westerlies, are basically vertical from earth to different spheres. So one is horizontal, other is vertical. So there are these type of winds which moves in different direction on the earth, and what they do basically, they disperse the different gases across the globe. So यहाँ की हवा वहां, वहां की हवा और जगह, इस तरह ये एक कॉम्प्लेक्स सिस्टम चलता रहता है, और इसी को बोलते हैं हम एटमॉस्फेरिक सर्कुलेशन. सो क्या होता है कि जब कोई व्यक्ति और हमारा कंट्री, इफ दे आर यूजिंग लॉट ऑफ ODS and they are releasing it into the atmosphere, what happens, these ODS are circulated and transported to different regions of the earth, and ultimately eventually they reach to the polar region. Why polar region? Because equatorial region is very warm, and when there is a warm, the gases rise and they move very high level vertically. So that is why I told in the first slide that the ozone layer is above 50 kilometer in the tropical region, in the equatorial region. But in case of pole, the height is lesser because there is a cold, and the cooling condition causes the subduction of gases, and that is why the ozone layer also goes down and it remains around 10 kilometer of the height. So what happens, with the help of these winds and circulation, these ozone depleting substances are moved to polar region, either to the Arctic region or to the Antarctic region. Now there is a very unique and beautiful thing. Arctic region is having no land mass. Arctic region is simply a oceanic region. Being it a polar region, the low temperature occurs and there is a freezed condition formed. So the entire ocean gets frozen. But you know that the temperature of water remains higher than the land region. So the temperature development at the Arctic region remains lesser cooler. But as you know that Antarctica is basically a land mass, because it is present in the southern portion. The low temperature causes the freezing condition. So there is a land and there is a frozen condition. So what happens, because it's a large land mass on this region, when the winds move towards southern part, Arctic region, the cooling takes place much more than the Arctic region. So what happens, you can see when the wind moves from equatorial to either Arctic or Antarctic, they carry the all material present in the gases, including ODS. They reach to the pole region. So when they reach to the pole region, what happens, the air present above the pole region. I'm just leaving the Arctic discussion. I am coming to the Antarctic region. Why the ozone depletion takes place in the Antarctic region? The air present towards Antarctic region starts cooling down. So as we know that Earth is rotating, when there is a rotation, there is a reflection of or release of energy. So when it reaches to the pole, the release of energy takes place from the gases. And when there is a release of gases, the energy takes place from gases, the condensation starts taking place. So what happens, the entire the Arctic region, the air present makes the air mass, and that air mass is colder in nature, and it remains on the height of around 20 kilometer above, and they are very large in size, around 10 to 100 kilometer length and several kilometer thick. So you can just imagine like a bread. It's a thicker gases, and that contains the different molecules coming from the use of the human being. And what happens, the earth keep on moving, rotating, the energy keep on going, dissipating, and what happens, the condensation keep on going. So what happens, you can link it with your movement of sun also. The gases are moving every time towards north and south, but when the sun starts moving from equator to Tropic of Cancer, meaning thereby towards us, India, the southern portion undergoes in the darker condition, 6-month darker condition. So what happens, in that darker condition, there is no light and the temperature goes down. So what happens, the gas which is formed in the form of air mass starts cooling, and that cooling leads to making the condensed condition, and that condensed condition is called as polar vortex. The air mass which is rotating at the pole and that is condensed in nature makes the polar vortex. And what happens with that, in the polar vortex, different gases has come from the equatorial or any other part of the globe. When temperature goes down, especially below the -80, the molecule which is called as sulfate molecule, they start behaving as a seed molecule, seed particle. जब टेम्परेचर 80 डिग्री से नीचे जाने लगता है, -80 होने लगता है, तो वो सीड मॉलिक्यूल की तरह काम करने लगता है। अब उस सीड मॉलिक्यूल पर क्या होता है, जितना भी ओजोन डिप्लीटिंग सब्सटेंस हमारा पहुंचा था वहां पर, वो भी सब ठंडा होने लगता है, कोल्ड होने लगता है, एंड दे स्टार्ट मेकिंग ए कंबाइंड molecule, such as you can see chlorine present in the form of HCl or ClONO2. They make the molecule chloride and HNO3 type of molecules. So when the cooling takes place, seed molecule acting as a SO4, on these SO4, these ozone depleting molecules gets stick and they are present in that cloud, the condensed air mass that starts taking the shape of cloud, and these molecules gets inside that cloud as a seed molecules. So all the ozone depleting substances into the winter condition or in the dark condition of the pole, especially Antarctica, they are sequestered as a seed molecule into that air mass, and that air mass is circulating. As you can see in the picture, I'll just show. The slide is not working. It's okay. So this sequestration keep on going, and all molecule gets condensed on seed molecule. So the cloud formed at the 80-degree temperature is called as polar stratospheric cloud, PSC1. This condensation keep on going, and this condensation reaches at the peak when the sun reaches to the Tropic of Cancer and temperature falls below 80 degree. Then what happens, all the water molecule also gets stick to the seed molecule, and when water gets stick to the seed molecule, it forms another kind of cloud that is called as polar stratospheric cloud 2. And at the time of formation of cloud 2, PSC2, all ODS molecule gets sequestered into that seed molecule, meaning thereby at that time the ozone layer is thickest in nature, because no obstruction is present, no harmful molecule is freely present to make the ozone layer disturbed. But what happens at this time when the PSC2 is formed? The entire cloud becomes colorful in nature, as you can see in this slide. The blue one on the left side, this is the polar vortex and PSC cloud, which is seen from the above by satellite image. And on the right side, you can see the picture taken from Earth. These cloud remains very colorful, and these colorful clouds are called as nacreous cloud or mother of pearl color. People especially go to take the picture of such clouds. They are very beautiful. So at this time, all the ODS molecule is sequestered into the cloud. Now what happens when sun starts moving from Tropic of Cancer to again towards equator and Capricorn? The lighting condition comes to the Antarctica. And at that time, what happens? The second phase of reaction starts. Because when light will come, energy will come, and that energy will cause release of water molecule condensed in the cloud on seeded molecule, and also release of all the ODS sequestered on the seed molecule. And consequently, what happens? Chlorine is released from the sequestered portion, seed molecule, and this chlorine is broken down by sunlight. So it makes the chlorine free radical, and with this chlorine free radical, ozone combines and then makes the chlorine oxide. This chlorine oxide makes the chlorine dioxide, and again it is broken by sunlight and makes the chlorine freely available, and that again reacts with ozone, and this kind of chain reaction starts. So what happens when there is a spring season in the Antarctica? These all molecules gets released, and this chain reaction is visible. So as the spring season proceeds towards summer, the thickness of ozone layer is seen very much, and the ozone depletion is observed in Antarctica around and after the spring season, that is after the October. So अक्टूबर के बाद अंटार्कटिका में जो डिप्लीशन है बहुत ज्यादा देखने को मिलता है, और इसी वजह से अंटार्कटिका में ये डिप्लीशन रिकॉर्ड किया गया। अब आती है बात आपका अंटार्कटिका में हो गया कि अंटार्कटिका में डिप्लीशन क्यों दिखता है? बिकॉज ऑफ द लैंड मास एंड सो मेनी फैक्टर्स आई डिस्कस्ड। आर्कटिक में क्यों नहीं दिखता है? बिकॉज आर्कटिक में लैंड मास नहीं है, और लैंड मास ना होने के कारण व्हाट हैपेंस, देयर इज नो स्टेबल formation of cloud as you saw in the PSC1 and PSC2. So when there is no cloud, dense cloud formation, there is no sequestration of these molecules. They are freely available, and when they are freely available, what happens? If you see the map of world, if you see the United Kingdom, there is an ocean, and from that ocean the warm currents keep moving towards Arctic region, and these warm current increase the temperature of that region. So that is why the PSC2 is not formed, and the molecule formed due to the breakdown of these ODS, what happens? They are flown from the Arctic region and move towards temperate region. Say for example, all the countries present or near around the United Kingdom like Denmark, Russia, all these. So what happens? These molecules are moving towards these land. They make the acid rain because they combine with water, and this chlorine combines with water makes the HCl. If there is sulfur, makes the H2SO4, and that is why acid rain is observed mostly in the tropical region. So this has very much functional relationship with the ozone depletion also, and that is why less ozone depletion is observed in the Arctic region. And what about the equatorial region? Because as I said, the equatorial region is very dynamic, very high temperature, everyday rainfall. So there is no chance of formation of polar stratospheric cloud or like that. So there is a very least or none, no ozone depletion is observed in the equatorial region. So people living around equatorial region are much more safer than the people moving after the equatorial region. This is the reason why differential ozone depletion seen at different part of the globe. Now, what are the effect of ozone layer? So as I have listed, ozone has great effect on diverse, part of diverse, aspect, such as it can be seen on human and health, animal health. It can be seen on terrestrial plants. It can be seen on aquatic plants. It is also having effect on material flow, nutrient cycling, air quality, material, climate change, water quality, and fisheries. What is the crux of these effects? We can discuss that and then we can understand all the effects. Ozone depletion will lead to more and more incoming of ultraviolet light, especially ranging UVB and UVC. Both are having high energy and they will cause trouble. What trouble they will cause, we can understand. So as we know that living being it is aquatic, terrestrial, or any plant, animal, anything, all living beings have genetic material. And genetic material is either made up of DNA or RNA. RNA is least susceptible and DNA is much more susceptible to the UV light. And why it is susceptible? Because the bases absorb the light, UV radiation, especially B slot, UVB, which has wavelength around 280. So 280 का जो range है, that is absorbed by the nucleotides, especially thymine nucleotide. So the genetic material which contains thymine as a part of ATCG, what happens when it comes to the UVB light comes after the leaving the ozone layer and reaches to the earth, strikes to living being, especially animals, it causes the formation of thymine dimer, because that UVB light is highly energetic. When it falls on tissues, layers of cells, the DNA present, and if the DNA molecule contains two thymine molecule very close to each other, they get joined by making a covalent bond, and that you can see here in the diagram. They make thymine dimer, and this thymine dimer makes the double-stranded DNA bulgy in nature. And this bulginess causes trouble in the replication of DNA, because when there will be replication, the two strand will be formed. One is your leading strand, another is a lagging strand. Because of this bulginess, the appropriate enzyme molecule do not bind, because they don't find appropriate three-dimensional structure, and that's why it leads to creation of mutation. This mutation leads to either deletion or a point mutation. Anything can happen, and this is the main trouble caused by UVB light in absence of appropriate thickness of ozone layer. So what happens, it is that every time if the UVB light will come and will kill us, no, we have different repair mechanism. If that repair mechanism fails, then we get the mutation. So what is the repair mechanism? You can simply understand, in the DNA, in the genetic material, we have certain proteins. These proteins are called as UVRAB protein. They keep searching, they keep moving on the DNA, and if they find, अगर आप लोगों ने कभी ट्रेन देखी हो, ट्रेन पटरी देखी हो, तो उस पे जो ट्रेन जाती है, ट्रेन के जाने और आने के बाद कुछ 4 पहिए वाले छोटे व्हीकल लेकर के वो घूमते रहते हैं कि देखते रहते हैं कहीं पटरी टूटी तो नहीं है, कुछ नट बोल्ट उखड़ तो नहीं गया है, दे रिपेयर इट. तो सिमिलर टू दैट ट्रॉली, these UVRAB molecule keep rotating, moving here and there. Whenever they find any difficulty or bulginess in the DNA, they immediately repair by cutting or removing that bulgy portion or thymine dimer and incorporating the correct thymine molecule, and this way the mutation is not achieved. But if the mutation is achieved because of the failure of the mechanism, repair mechanism, then we get mutated, and that's the problem we see. So let's come back to this effect on human and animal health. Now you can understand how it can affect our human health and animal health. It can cause mutation, especially when it causes mutation in the skin. There is a problem. That problem is called as xeroderma pigmentosum. UV radiation causes loss of pigment, melanin pigment, and causes the cancer, and that is why the term has been called xeroderma pigmentosum. Apart from that, it has been reported that cataract takes place, immune suppression takes place. So many troubles are seen in human being and animal health also. Excessive UVB and UVC light, if coming due to the ozone depletion, they will cause trouble to plants, because high light wavelength of your UV, B and C will cause chlorosis, necrosis, or inhibition of several photosynthetic process and respiratory process will cause the problem in plants, and that will lead to the affecting productivity of the plant in terms of food grain or in terms of net primary production seen in the wild plants. So it will lead to decline in the productivity. Effect on aquatic plants. In the aquatic plants, the same thing will happen, and especially in oceanic region, we have zooplanktons and phytoplanktons. Zooplankton and phytoplanktons are a small organism, single cell organism. They have direct impact on these UVB and C. If the phytoplankton and zooplankton population goes down, the animals dependent on these plants will decline, because fishes eat these phytoplanktons. So fish problem will decline. If the fish problem will decline, all the other organisms which are dependent on the fish their population will decline. So entirely what will happen? The biodiversity loss will take place. The food chain will get broken down. So things will collapse. So similarly, effect on material flow. What is material? Carbon, hydrogen, nitrogen, oxygen. These are material, and they keep rotating in the ecosystem as biogeochemical cycle. So if the plant productivity is declined, their number is declined, biodiversity is declined, then what will happen? The flow of these material will also be hampered. If there is no flow, no life on earth. So that will also be seen as a consequence of ozone. Air quality. If you have more and more UVB and UVC, these high energy UVB and UVC will hit to different particles of the different molecules of the gases. Say for example, NO2 will lead to formation of N and O. SO2, it will break sulfur and oxygen. So what will happen? The breakdown product will form, and these breakdown products will become more reactive and available for breathing, and they will deteriorate the quality of air. Effect on material. Simply I have shown the picture of my college. So if excess UVB and UVC will fall on the wall of the painted wall of the college or a building, it will affect their quality and their durability. If the paint is going to survive for 10 years, it will be bad in 5 years. So it will have effect on material. Similarly, effect on climate change. Climate change incorporates global warming as well as the long-term changes in the climate. So it is nothing but if the material flow is affected, if the biodiversity is declined, ultimately it will lead to change in climate also. Because if there is no tree, the temperature will definitely either go high or low. Because as we know that in the desert, the daytime is very high temperature, but in the night, the temperature falls very rapidly. So what will happen? The system will get disturbed, and that will lead to the climatic change. Similar argument can be given for the fisheries also, because if your phytoplanktons and zooplanktons are going down, the communities dependent on the fishery will decline. Because if you read, I think more than 50% of human protein supply comes from the marine products, and these are marine products are basically dependent on these phytoplanktons. So the things will become collapse. These all effects are interlinked with UVB and UVC, and that are dependent on the thickness and thinness of the ozone layer. So at the end, what mitigation measures can be taken? How to overcome these problems? So we can just sort out by 4 ways: legal measures, alternatives of ODS. जो भी हम ODS यूज कर रहे हैं उनके अल्टरनेटिव यूज करें ताकि वो हमारे लिए हार्मफुल ना हो. More research and development so that we create more eco-friendly products that can be used to prevent the ozone depletion. And the thing which we are doing, we shall get more aware and interested to protect our environment. So in the legal measure, under the leadership of United Nations, there is a body called a UNEP, United Nations Environmental Program, and United Nations itself. When in 1980 we come to know that ozone depletion is taking place, the scientists as well as leaders become very much curious, very much sensitive for protection of this layer. They brought 2 international treaties. There is one treaty that is called as Vienna Convention and Montreal Protocol. Montreal Protocol is a part of Vienna Convention. We become party of this convention. The Vienna Convention aims for preventing the depletion of ozone layer. How we can prevent the depletion of ozone layer? By reducing or phasing out the ozone depleting substances. So Montreal Protocol is basically a byproduct of Vienna Convention that focuses on how we can reduce the production of ozone depleting substances and phase out them so that no depletion takes place. So by the help of these 2 international treaties or convention or protocols across the globe, the ozone layer thickness is tried to maintained so that no issue takes place. How to operationalize these treaties? We have a cell that is called as ozone cell. It is functioning under the umbrella of Ministry of Environment and Forest and Climate Change. It is helping in phasing out of the production and consumption of ODS across our country. So with this legal measure, I think it's very happy to know that we have almost achieved the goal of Vienna Convention and Montreal Protocol for protection of the ozone layer. So with this, I would like to rest my lecture. Thank you for patiently listening. Thank you to the college.
Thank you very much, sir, for this wonderful session. Now we have some questions from our audience. So I would read out the questions on their behalf. So the very first question comes from Megha. She wants to know, is depletion of ozone layer the principal cause of global climate change?
No. The climate change is basically change in the average temperature of Earth atmosphere. So climate change is basically output of whatever activities have been done on Earth. And what it has done, it has changed the average temperature, be it at the lower end or be it the higher end. So climate change is not a cause. Climate change is one of the thing that is occurring due to thinning of ozone layer.
The next question is from Varsha. She wants to
Yes,
know
please.
what are the dangers associated with hole in ozone layer.
You can see as I showed you the slide, effect of ozone depletion. I listed 8 effects. So these are basically the threats of ozone depletion. It has effect on all living organism, all plant, microbe, everywhere. It is not only the living organism, it is also affecting the material also. Material in the sense, if you leave your car outside for 1 month, the paint of the car will fade. So why it is fading? It is not fading just because of the sunlight. It is because of the certain portion of UVC, UVB, or in that high energy radiation coming from sun is reaching to us.
All right. So next question is from Unnati. How can we reduce the usage of CFCs?
Just to control your consumeristic approach, start moving towards normal life, because these things, if we keep consuming by organizing such lecture or initiating such things, nothing will happen. We have to discard all the things which are going to cause trouble to ozone layer as well as the other part of the ecosystem, say for plastic. So हमें एक सिंपल लाइफ को अडॉप्ट करना होगा as much as possible, because we cannot go 100% simple life, because we have to live in this world also. But wherever it is possible, we can avoid. Say for example, if you are consuming air conditioner, and if you can stay without that, don't use.
Very well said, sir. Next question is from Sneha. Do the change in sun and volcanic eruption affect the ozone layer?
Absolutely. Good question. I forgot to mention. As I said, when there is a formation of seed molecule, and that seed molecule is formed because of the sulfate molecule making it seed particle. So usually these sulfate molecules are coming from volcanic eruptions. So when there is a volcanic eruption, this sulfate molecule reaches to the atmospheric region, and these leads to help in the more and more condensation and contribution to the more seeding, sequestering of these molecules. So this is the one thing. It is not going to affect directly to the ozone depletion. It has certain assisting role. Second thing, as she asked, sun portion as well as the volcanic eruption. It has been found that sun, after certain period of time, say for I think 11 or 12 year, there is a burst in radiation. So that burst causes increased radiation into the reaching to the earth. So when there is a more radiation, definitely there is a chance of more UV light, and especially UVB and UVC. More UV light, more UVB, more C. If your ozone layer is thinner, more UVB will reach to earth and will cause trouble. But it has positive effect also. More light, more radiation, more oxygen converted into ozone. So it's a matter of appropriate scientific inquiry, how to judge what is going to happen with the increase of light from the sun. because these are big events which we cannot replicate into the laboratory.
All right. So next, Priyanka wants to know, are ultraviolet rays harmful for both human beings and animals?
Yes, definitely. UVB as well as UVC, both are harmful. C usually gets cut off from the ozone layer, B reaches to the earth, and I said UVB has a wavelength that can be absorbed by thymine or other, especially thymine molecules, and when they are absorbed by these nucleotides, they make the covalent bonding, and that covalent bonding disturbs the DNA structure, and definitely it is harmful for them. So be it a plant, be it an animal, if they are hitting to or falling on their skin or exposed portion, they will cause trouble, and that is why we are using sunscreen to avoid the these harmful radiations.
Last question is from Shefali. She wants to know, when was the first ozone hole discovered?
It was around 1980.
And secondly, she wants to know, can natural disaster be the one of the main reasons of ozone depletion?
It may be, but the problem is natural products are basically not having that much of potential to cause ozone depletion, because natural products are like sulfate, nitrate, like these. Chlorine is also part of that, but not much in amount. So if you do not have that amount to contribute for causing the ozone depletion will not take place. If we also release certain amount of ozone depleting substances that is consumable, meaning thereby it is assimilated into the nature, then there is no problem. But we have exceeded that threshold, and that is why high amount of such molecules have reached to the upper layer, that is stratosphere, and causing the trouble. प्रकृति में जो भी चीज बनी है वो एक तरीके से कह सकते हैं कि एक व्यक्ति का वेस्ट दूसरे व्यक्ति के लिए रिसोर्स का काम करता है, और दूसरे व्यक्ति का वेस्ट तीसरे व्यक्ति के लिए रिसोर्स का काम करता है. जैसे हम घर में देख सकते हैं कि भाई हमारे यहाँ अखबार आता है, हम अखबार को पढ़ते हैं और हमने पढ़ लिया, उसके बाद हम उसे बेच देते हैं, तो वो कबाड़ी वाले के लिए रिसोर्स हो जाता है, हमारे लिए वेस्ट हो गया. लेकिन कबाड़ी वाला उसके लिए तो उस आमदनी का साधन है, उसकी सारी जीविका उससे चलती है. फिर कबाड़ी वाला क्या करता है, वो ले जाके किसी की थोक में बेचता है, वो उसके आमदनी का साधन हो जाता है. फिर अल्टीमेटली इट रीचेस टू द फैक्ट्री दैट रिसाइकल्स इट, and again it comes of the newspaper form. So the material keep on circulating. But in case of these ODS, what happens, they are not circulating. Once they are reached to the upper atmospheric region, they are not going to come into the earth. They remain there in the form of sequestered form, free form, especially in the Antarctica region. And that is why ozone depletion is much more seen in the Antarctica region. In Arctic region, I said there is not much formation of PSC, PSC2, and that is why these molecules, they reach there, they get broken, and because of the intermittent rain, टेम्परेट रीजन में जो बरसात होती है वो लगातार होती है 6-6, 7-7 दिन तक. ये जो क्लाउड होते हैं, उन्हीं क्लाउड में ये बरस जाते हैं और ये वापस जो है पृथ्वी पर आ जाते हैं. सो वहां पर इतना होल नहीं हो पाता, उतना डिप्लीशन नहीं हो पाता. दिस इज द रीजन. सो नेचुरल थिंग्स आर नेचुरली feedback regulated, but the man-made product has caused the trouble because it has crossed certain threshold level which is not assimilable, and that is why the problem is there.
Thank you so much, sir, for the responses. With this, we have come towards the end of this session. So on behalf of Biology Department, Institute of Home Economics, I extend my gratitude to our honorable speaker, Dr. Maurya, for taking out time from his busy schedule to grace this event and enlightening us with the information about the depletion of ozone layer and search for possible solutions to preserve it. Today's session was indeed interesting and full of knowledge. It gave deep insights into the topic and also revealed some interesting facts to us. My special thanks go to Professor Geeta Trilok Kumar, Director IHE, for giving permission to organize this lecture. I also extend my gratitude to Dr. Rachna Kapila, Teacher in Charge, Biology Department, for providing immense support to make the webinar successful. And last but not the least, I thank all the participants present here for paying their complete attention and learning. Thank you everyone once again. The link for feedback form is in the chat box. Please fill it. Thank you.
Thank you so much, sir, for
Thank you, ma'am.
sharing such a nice and this precious time here and such a knowledge to our students. And be in touch for future also, sir. Thank you so much, sir.
Thank
On
you,
behalf
ma'am.
of all faculty members and as well on behalf of students, I would like to just extend my thanks to you. Thank you so much, sir.
Welcome.
Thank you very much, sir, for your time, sir.
Thank you, sir. Thank you.
थैंक यू बच्चों, थैंक यू सो मच फॉर स्पेयरिंग सो मच ऑफ टाइम. मजा आया? हेलो,
Yes, ma'am. Yes, ma'am.
Yes, ma'am.
बच्चों से पूछ रही हूँ दीक्षा.
Yes, ma'am.
सुबह से पकड़ गया. अरे कुछ एक्स्ट्रा भी करना चाहिए, है ना?
Ma'am, it was
बच्चे
a very nice lecture, ma'am. बहुत अच्छे से समझाया.
Yeah, it was
अच्छा
a
बोला,
very nice
डिटेल में
lecture.
समझाया है.
बहुत
बट
अच्छा लगा.
गुड, ठीक है, बच्चों के लिए किया, हो गया. रिकॉर्डिंग की है ना आपने?
Yes,
हाँ जी,
ma'am.
ma'am.
Good question. And thank you Tanvi and thank you Shantanu also.
Thank you, ma'am. Thank
Thank
you.
you. Thank you
Thank
all.
you very much.
Enjoy
You're
weather.
welcome.
Bye bye.
Chale.
Okay.
All- Bye bye.
Bye. Tanvi,
जी
just
मैम.
let the students go. I just want to tell you something.
ओके मैम.
चलो हम फोन पे बात कर लेंगे.
ठीक है.
Right. ठीक है.
ठीक है.
Okay then. Take care.
Okay,
Bye bye.
ma'am. All right.
Thank you very much, all students.
फीड फॉर्म उसमें भी शेयर कर दो व्हाट्सएप पे.
Yes,
किसी
ma'am.
बच्चे ने. तन्वी तुम भी भर लो अपना फीडबैक.
Yes, ma'am.